Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Kay, and I just pray you're having a blessed day. So today, my husband and I were reading in Proverbs, and every other day we read whatever that day's Proverbs is as we're reading a chapter of the Bible every single day together as part of our time together. And so something hit me in Proverbs 10:32. Today's the 10th, so we were reading Proverbs 10. And it said, "The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked, what is perverse." So when I was living so actively in my sin life, I totally, even if I didn't understand I was doing wrong, I could see it, right? Like you were in a fog, but you were doing things and justifying it. So, oh, this is okay because there's either a standard or not, right? But when you start to justify your sin, it's you're entitled to do it, right? And so as I have broken free, I've learned different layers of deliverance, let's say, in the Lord, right? Where it's like, wow, this layer was so in my face and I have to focus on that. And he breaks me free of it. And then I focus on the next layer. But sometimes when we make that radical transformation over, it seems like almost people think we're too radical. And I was like, Lord, why is that? And so as we're reading this today, I realized that we are seemingly more radical is because we understand it more than they do in the aspect of we can see the moving parts. For example, if I have done something before in my old life and I'm made new now and I know the steps to take to get there, I'm not going to behave that way now and I'm going to see it for what it is. My husband and I always joked around because he was one of those people that everyone loved to talk to. And sometimes some of the women would be like, hair flip. And we'd joke around and say, oh, it's a hair flipper, like be careful. And he would never notice that they're flipping the hair at him and that they were talking to him in that way. He just wouldn't notice that. And so he was always very kind and he was very loving to anyone and everyone. And he didn't put any proper boundaries and protocols like in place for himself to just, hey, certain things aren't going to be tolerated. Not that he's a bad guy, right? You don't see certain things. So when people started to flirt with him, like women would flirt with him, he just wouldn't notice. He just was like, oh, what? No, ew, no. But when he gave his life to Jesus, when he transformed and God worked through some layers with him, when women would come towards him in a certain manner, he'd already be like, boop, boundary, hard stop. So for example, he'd always be like, hey, side hug, full hugs are reserved for my wife only. Like he'd just say it, like that's the boundary, like, hey, no. If someone needed to talk to him and it was something that needed to be discussed in private, he'd put me or their spouse in the conversation or all four of us. It was just something he would do as a safeguard because he didn't want to open the door to. And so anyone else would be like, wow, that's extreme. Or, oh, is your wife controlling you? Like, why are you having to do all this? You can't have a conversation. But how comforting is it to know that we're not going to allow the darkness to even have a moment of our time? So that taught me, hey, side hugs, right? My husband says side hug. Okay, cool. I can respect that. But people aren't going to get that, right? Like, oh, why you got a side hug? What's a big deal about a hug? But people don't understand that sometimes, like when you develop a relationship, how do you develop a relationship with someone? You don't just end up in bed with them. You end up looking at them first. Then you got to have a conversation with them. Then you have to have something in common or something. Like there has to be A, B, C, D before you get all the way to the final step, right? So in the relationship, you had to see them, had to develop communication of some sort. Then you had to have an opportunity to create a conversation or alone time or whatever. And so what I love about Proverbs 10:32 is today's revelation for me was I understand when I was that wicked, when I was the one doing the thing. I understand the difference now. And it's my job, and not really job, right? But it's my honor to share that with people who may not get it, in hopes that they learn it so that they don't fall through the same traps that I did. And so if that's you, if it made sense to you, just weigh in on it. What in your life did you see before that you were blatant in sin, that now you can see from a mile away, like, absolutely not. I am safeguarding myself. I will not be doing this. Absolutely not. And it comes in layers. And if you are still the same person you were last year, it's dangerous that you haven't grown yet. So what layer are you in right now? What's your journey? Where are you healing in? What do you see that you don't see the same anymore? Those are the things that just come up when you're reading the word and the Holy Spirit lives, right, in you. And it just like, hey, this one little line came up with hours and hours of conversation. So no matter what your safeguards are, I pray that you see the things for what they are. They're spiritual first, and that you protect yourself. Have a wonderful day.